恭敬大德三听，为四法为记一切众生，经转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐。速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanputo che. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. Excuse me. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good knowing advisors, Amitabha, welcome back. We had a long break, and we are, we are now at lecture number 151 in our exploration of the Dharma using the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra as our foundation. I'm going to apologize in advance because you'll be hearing that a lot and a bit of coughing. The more I speak, the more I tend to cough. This is a lingering side effect from when I contracted COVID, and that's why my voice sounds different as well. Excuse me. So sometimes, like just now, you might hear nothing, and that's because I have muted my microphone either to drink some water or to clear my throat. Like just now again. Okay, so what we have today is we have written back to the sutra, and we are on the section of mantras. Okay, and let me get to the next slide. Oh, yes, as usual. Before we begin, does anyone have any questions or anything they want to bring up? You don't have to feel shy, please. You know, I welcome questions. Well, you have the option of typing it into the chat box if you don't want to ask right now. But at any time, please feel free to unmute your microphone or type into the chat box if there's you feel that there's something that requires more explanation. All right? Okay. Excuse me. Okay, so coming to the sutra, we have a few slides of the sutra text, of this section of the sutra text. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read all of it, and then we'll come back to this slide that you see in front of you, and then we'll start explaining. All right? Okay, so I'm going to put my palms together. This is the Buddha speaking. He said, "Moreover, Manjushri, when Medicine Master Vaidurya like Tathagata attained Bodhi, by the power of his past vows, he contemplated all the sentient beings who were suffering from various sicknesses and pains. Some suffered from diseases such as emaciation, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, atrophy, severe thirst or yellow fever. Others were harmed by paralysis, ghosts, or by poisonous hexes. Some died naturally when young, while others experienced untimely deaths. He wished to dispel all their sicknesses and sufferings and to fulfill their wishes. At that time, the World-Honored One, which is another title for the Buddha, the World-Honored One entered a samadhi called extinguishing the suffering and distress of all beings. This word samadhi means proper or right concentration. After he entered this samadhi, a great light came forth from the prominence on top of his head. From amid that light, he proclaimed this magnificent Dharani. Namo Pochafadi, excuse me, that's not right. Namo Pochafadi Bisasa Jilu Biludi Bolapo Halashaya Dotao Chetoya Allahadi Samyasa Putoche Tachitanam Bisasa Samocheti Soha. That's the Medicine Master Buddha mantra. It's a very important mantra. Why? We'll come back to that. After he had spoken that mantra from amid the light, the earth trembled and emitted great light. All beings, sicknesses, and sufferings were dispelled, and they felt peaceful and happy. Manjushri, if you see a man or woman who is ill, you should single-mindedly and frequently clean and bathe him and rinse his mouth. Provide him with food, medicine, or water that is free of insects, over any of which the Dharani has been recited 108 times. I've highlighted the word Dharani here because we're going to explore what Dharani means later. After the sick person has taken it, all his sicknesses and sufferings will be gone. If this person has a wish, he should recite this mantra with utmost sincerity. Then he will obtain whatever he wished for, and his life will be prolonged and free from illness. At the end of his life, he will be reborn in that Buddha's land. He will become irreversible and will ultimately attain Bodhi. Therefore, Manjushri, if they are men and women who with utmost sincerity diligently worship and make offerings to Medicine Master Vaidurya like Tathagata, they should always recite this mantra. Excuse me. They should always recite this mantra and never forget it. I'm going to mute my microphone for a while. Oh my God. Sorry about that. Okay. Let me... Oh, you know what? There is a question. And just in case that question is relevant to our sutra text today, I'm just going to get ChatGPT to help me translate. Okay, hold on. Please translate to English All right. Okay, so the question is, today I returned to my old family house where I spent my childhood with my family. But I suddenly discovered that it had been burned down, leaving only 4 walls. I have been without a home for many years. My family hasn't lived together for a long time. Everyone has moved on to new lives. Recently, I've been feeling nostalgic and remembering my childhood. Seeing the house damaged by the fire today left me with mixed emotions and a deep sense of shock. I want to ask you, Master, how should one define home? Oh, that's an excellent question. Okay. I remember there was a question that was actually a topic. What is home? I think it was I don't remember where it was. Was it at Dharma Realm Buddhist University or at Berkeley Monastery? And the topic was, what is home? What does home mean? And one of the monks said, I don't know if it was me. I can't remember, but I know it was from a monk. And he said, whenever I close my eyes and meditate, that's what home is. So we'll come back to that excellent question. All right. Okay, let's go back to the text for now. Let's go back to that first slide. Okay. Excuse me. So it is no surprise that given this is the Sutra of Medicine Master Buddha, that he talks about illness. All right. And he says, by the power of his past vows, he contemplated all the sentient beings who were suffering from various sicknesses and pains. What does this mean, by the power of his past vows? How do you become a Buddha? By your vows. What are vows? Vows are your goals. Vows are the reason. Vows are the promises that you make to yourself of who you want, vows. Yeah, of who you want to become, what you want to achieve with your practice. You know, when children say, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor, like an ambition. That's what vows are. But what vows also do is that if you do it in the right way, it gives you the necessary vigor and inducement and courage to undertake what you need to in order to achieve your vows. So vows carry power. They push you forward. So before you become a Buddha, that's what you rely on. That's why vows are such an important practice of Mahayana Buddhism, because vows bring out the best in you. If you're just doing it for yourself, you know, when you do you feel like doing it, you'll do it. But if you don't feel like doing it, you just stop, take a nap or something. What vows do is to help you overcome your shortcomings, your habits, your weaknesses. Vows are the secret ingredient to overcoming the things that hold you back. All right. So vows are very powerful. And because of his vows, Medicine Master Buddha, before he became a Buddha, he undertook so many practices that gave him the ability that now he could contemplate all the sentient beings and understand the different afflictions, the sicknesses, the illness, the pains, the sufferings they have to go through. So then the sutra lists down different forms of illness. For example, emaciation, Shofu says that emaciation means your body wastes away until you're just skin and bones. And then atrophy kind of cripples you. It takes your ability to use your body well. And sometimes when your hands and your feet curl up, it's also a bit like emaciation. I said that atrophy robs you of the ability to use your limbs. Oh, excuse me. Then for thirst, Shofu says there's actually a disease of thirst. In Chinese, it's called gan xiao. Gan xiao, I'm not sure. Where you just feel thirsty all the time. And then yellow fever is jaundice. And there's an interesting thing about paralysis ghosts. These are known as Kubanda ghosts. These ghosts are very special. They have a category all by themselves. I also have a few slides about that because they're very interesting. And I don't have a personal story, but when I was at living in a city of 10,000 Buddhas as a layperson, the annex that I was living in called Annex 1, when you go to City TB or the city of 10,000 Buddhas and you want to leave home, they put you in Annex 1. Yeah, also with other people as well. But you get to go to Annex 1. Annex 1 is just right outside the door of the building where the monks live. Just across a road. And so Annex 1, there are, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think there's 7 or 8 rooms in that building. That's why it's called an annex. They are all together maybe 8 or 12 annexes. I don't remember, can't recall right now. So there are 8 rooms in Annex 1, and the room opposite the toilet is famous because when we have guests and visitors coming during the Fa Huis, the sessions, the ceremonies, almost every time one person will get this sleep paralysis. They'll wake up in the middle of the night and then they won't be able to move and they just feel frozen. Yeah. So that's that room in Annex 1. I can't tell. Oh, I already gave it away. Which room? Oh, okay. So if anyone goes to the city of 10,000 Buddhas and you get that room opposite the toilet, we'll find out what are the things that you can do. All right? Okay, hexes. Shifu says hexes are sicknesses caused by poisonous spells or voodoo, like voodoo magic. And it occurs in areas where witchcraft is prevalent. If you've grown up in Malaysia, Thailand, especially, you would be familiar with these kind of things, like Indonesia. And Shifu says in China's Yunnan province and in some parts of Southeast Asia, there you go, there are people who raise poisonous insects such as centipedes, spiders, and scorpions and place them in a vessel, which is then sealed with an incantation. Incantation is a spell. The insects devour each other until only one is left. The last remaining insect contains all the poison of the others and is known as the king of poison. Then spells and incantations are used to direct that insect, by then which becomes a monstrosity, to attack victims and cause them to become sick or die. Now you know. All right. Untimely, okay, young deaths, some die naturally when young. Shifu says this is due to their past, their karma. And then what are untimely deaths? Untimely deaths is unexpected deaths. Like for example, accidents such as plane crashes, vehicle accidents, shipwrecks, train derailments, floods, fires, earthquakes, hurricanes. When people are unprepared to lose their lives, that's what is known as untimely deaths. Yeah, and Shifu also says there are other sicknesses. According to the Buddha, not everything is due to karma. There are sometimes when there's an imbalance of the 4 elements that also, like in my case, cause you to be sick. Yeah, and lose your voice for a month. Yeah, amazing. Okay, so now we come to this mantra. This mantra, if you recite it at a fairly quick pace, 108 times will be very quick. Let me see, how many beats do I have? I remember reciting 1 hour and like 500 times, 500 plus times. Yeah, I have some special beats, Pure Land, Japanese Pure Land beats that can count 28 times 20. That's what, 540? Yeah, it takes about just under an hour to recite 540 times. Yeah. Okay. So, the Buddha's advice is, if you want to use this mantra, it says, if you see a man or woman who is ill, you should single-mindedly and frequently clean and bathe this person and rinse their mouth. Provide them with food, medicine, or water that is free of insects over which the Dharani has been recited 108 times. So this is like the Tape Cho, or the Great Compassion Mantra, where you recite over the water. Some people think that the water is what makes it efficacious. According to a true story, the water is I'm not sure if the water is always an expedient, but there was an incident at the City of 10,000 Buddhas many years ago. I think this was during the 70s. I don't remember which disciple this was of Shufu's, whether it was Alan Nicholson or someone else. But what happened was this person, his father was sick. And so Shufu told him, okay, you recite I think how many times? I don't remember how many times, at least 108 times of the Great Compassion Mantra, which is slightly longer than this Medicine Master Buddha mantra, maybe 3 times longer. Says you recite it over water and then you deliver it to your father. So the father was sick. But the thing is, the father lived about an hour away. So every day, this son was very sincere. Excuse me. He would recite over a glass of water and then he would drive very carefully to where his father was and make sure the father would drink the water, and then he would come back. And later, Shofu revealed that the water was just an expedient to help him be more sincere, be more single-minded, be more focused in his practice. Yeah. Okay, so Shofu says, if you recite this very short mantra faithfully and single-mindedly, what is single-mindedly? Single-mindedly means you are not thinking about anything else. If you do it really well, time passes very quickly. You will have no concept of time, and you will, at the end of your recitation, you will realize that it had gone very smoothly. You're not thinking about what you're going to eat for lunch. You're not thinking about how comfortable or uncomfortable you are, or things that you should be doing or have not done. Things like that. No thoughts intrude in your mind. And the mantra helps you do that when you develop enough skill. So Shufu says, when you can be that sincere, you will find that it has infinitely many wonderful functions. A doctor can use this mantra to enable his patients to have a speedy recovery. With the mantra's help, he can become an extremely good doctor. Everyone, whether you are a doctor or not, should recite this mantra. If you recite it on behalf of sick people, they will soon get well. The mantra consists of transliterated words which cannot be explained. You are not You are not, I should recite this over water and drink myself. It says, you are not supposed to understand what the mantra means. It is wonderful precisely because it is not understood. Since you can't think about what it means, you'll be able to recite single-mindedly and obtain a response. Doesn't that make sense? You don't know what you're reciting, and because you don't know what you're reciting, you can't think about what you're reciting, and that's how you can be single-minded. And single-minded is very important because that's how you obtain a response. Most mantras, not all, I say not all because I don't know, but most mantras, the reason you evoke a response, an efficacious response, is not because you do the hard work. No, you have to be sincere, but then your sincerity will move Dharma protecting spirits, Vajra wielding spirits, who have the ability to help. That's how it works, at least to my knowledge. All right? Okay. Now, this section of the sutra is quite typical of many sutras that contain dharanis or mantras. It seems as if there's a lot of promise that's attached to the practice of the mantra. Is like, for example, you see it says, then he will obtain whatever he wished for, and his life will be prolonged and free from illness. It's almost too good to be true. All right, but if you ever tried certain practices, or you read the sutras and you try it for yourself, over time you will discover how difficult it is to meet the requirements that will get you these benefits. So it's not that the sutras overpromise, the sutras don't lie, but rather it depends on the practitioner's ability, to make it come true. All right. So for those people who have practiced before, because I know personally, I do know people who have certain situations, they know what the mantra can do, and they have very high expectations, and they try their best. And when the expectations are not met, they lose faith in the Dharma. Whereas it is not the Dharma that they should lose faith in, but rather they should look at they should take it as a sign as their skill is not enough. Yeah. So if it doesn't, you don't succeed. For example, if 2 weeks from now I'm still coughing, then obviously my 108 times reciting over water is not working. Don't give up. It just means that you have to keep on working at it, because reciting of mantras is a practice. The more you do, the better you get at it. All right. Okay. Now let's look at what Shufu has to say on this. Oh, actually, I've already read this to you earlier, so I'm just leave it on screen while I drink some water. Okay, so we already done this, all right. And then this next slide, I've also read it out already. I've highlighted, or rather underlined, you'll be able to recite single-mindedly, and that's key. All right, you have to be able to be single-minded. Single-minded is not an easy thing to do. If anyone has ever tried to meditate before, you will quickly realize your mind has a mind of its own, and it's going to fight you all the way. Yeah. So single-minded is a rare skill, but a skill worth developing. Okay, next we have Shufu's commentary on the Lotus Sutra, where Shufu talks a lot about the Kumbhanda ghost. All right, and I thought it was interesting to share because it's also related to mantras. But before I get there, anyone else have any questions? No? We haven't had a lecture for one whole month, and no one has any questions? Okay, anyway. Okay, so in the Lotus Sutra, Dharma Flower Lotus Sutra, there's a chapter all on Dharani, on mantras. And okay, oh, wait, hold on. Let me see. I actually have some slides which I think I might have skipped. Just give me a moment while I look for it. Okay, all right. It's after this section on Kumbhanda ghost. All right, okay, you're good. Okay, so Shufu says Kumbhanda originally transliterated in Chinese as, I don't know how to pronounce that, Jiu Pan Tu, is widely known as Jiu Pan Cha, or a misreading of its name that has nevertheless become so common that the Kumbhanda has probably realized and accepted the fact that people have changed its name. So you call it Kumbhanda or some other, maybe the Chinese is, the Kumbhanda is probably right, it's the Chinese pronunciation that's wrong, but the ghost will still know that you're referring to it. So Kumbhanda is called a winter melon ghost, or a barrel-shaped ghost. It's called by those names because it's got such a big belly that it resembles a Chinese ceramic barrel big enough to hold several dozen gallons of water. Let me put a sweet in my mouth so I can cough less. The Kumbhanda is also called the nightmare ghost. If you are sleeping at night and a ghost sees that you are deep in sleep, snoring away with total yin energy and no yang energy, it will jump on you. So this is key. I'm not sure if anyone online right now, has anyone here ever experienced sleep paralysis at night? Anyone? If you are shy and you don't want to people to know who you are, you can message me directly. I won't reveal your name. Okay. Do you want to share your experience?
Sure. I'm just trying to make sure that you conserve your voice, so I will just do my first one.
Thank you.
Actually, have experienced it, and my mother always tell me that if I have my bed right next to a window, and if I sleep, well, like you say, the yin energy and whatever, I would be able to get this syndrome, like paralysis. And I think in Cantonese they say somebody is literally literally pressing on you, or suffocating you, not suffocating, actually like sitting on you or something like that. I don't know whether other people have experiences. I mean, right up to my adulthood, I still experience every now and then. This experience tends to be more, I would say most of the time it's when I am sleeping straight up, I think. Yeah. So anyway, that's my
Okay, thank you.
experience.
Thank you. When you say sleeping straight up, what does that mean? Like standing up or?
Oh, I meant on my back.
Oh,
Sleeping on my
okay.
back. Yeah,
Okay.
experience rather than on my side. It seems to be more of an experience if flat, or basically, yeah, flat
Okay.
on my back. Yeah.
Flat on your back. Okay, thank you. All right. I have to put in a disclaimer about this Kumbanda ghost and sleep paralysis. I do not know if all incidents of sleep when you wake up and you can't move, whether is it due to Kumbanda ghost or not. So let's not. I'm not saying that. All right, because it could be a medical condition. I do not know enough to say anything about that. Okay, but in this case, we are going through Shufu's commentary, right? And Shufu says, yin energy. All right, so he says when that happens, you feel as if you are being smothered. You won't be able to call out, move, or get up. Even if your eyes are wide open, you won't be able to recite any mantra or dharani. If this goes on for too long, you can be smothered to death. Yeah. If your yang energy rises again and light comes forth, the ghost will run off. Your light returns because you've done some good deeds that can emit a bit of yang light to scare the ghost away. But if you're as bad as the ghost, having done only bad deeds, and you're completely yin, then it can smother you. How do you pronounce that? Smother? Smother you to death. Then it will draw you into its ghostly retinue, and you have to work for it, doing whatever it tells you to do. If you don't do what the ghost says, it'll punish you. It may hit you or recite a spell that gives you a headache or paralyzes you. It will control you. Okay, so what is yin and what is yang? Okay, for this, in Shufu's commentary on the Shurangama Sutra, Shufu says, what is meant by yang? It means always being happy, truly happy in your self-nature. That is not just laughing it up on the surface of things, ha ha ha. It refers to the extreme bliss experience in your inherent nature. It's actually it's not a normal happy state. If in your self-nature you're always worried and depressed, being afflicted, upset, and distressed all day long, that belongs to yin. Excuse me. So, in the same Shurangama Sutra, Shufu says, those belonging to yin are the ones that ghosts can possess. Yang belongs to the spirit. Predominance of yang is a spirit. Predominance of yin is a ghost. People who cultivate the Buddha path and have pure yang energy also have light. But if one is totally yin, there is a black energy present. So it can be told if a person is good or not just by looking at him or her. Good people have white energy around them. Bad people have a mass of black energy, demonic energy. And apparently, these are anecdotes that I've heard around CTTB that if you have very strong spiritual energy, very pure, the light is more of a yellowish kind of light. Yeah. And if you're meditating and something or someone comes to you and there's light, the way you can differentiate between if the person is wholesome or good compared to someone trying to be funny. If the light is yellow but it gives off heat, there's warm to the light, then no good. Okay, no good. Remember, normally we think that light warm is nice and comfortable. No, if you meditate and you see something, you think maybe it's a Buddha or something, and there's yellow light but it's warm, Shifu says no, that's not good. It has to be cool. Yeah, cool, maybe not cooling, but definitely not warm. All right. Okay, so now we come to something interesting, which is what are mantras, Dharanis, and Parittas. Okay, because people sometimes there's a misconception that in the Theravada tradition there are no mantras or Dharanis, which is not strictly true. In fact, Shifu says mantras are Dharanis, Dharanis are mantras, and oh my, excuse me. And that's, as far as we are concerned, that's correct. And then if you go to the Thai tradition or the Sri Lanka tradition, the Theravada tradition, they use the word Parittas. There are slight differences, but the more you know about them, the more you realize there are more similarities than differences. Okay. Now, if you investigate this deeper, all right, if you have nothing better to do and you want to investigate the difference between mantra and the Dharani, is there really any difference? Well, there are slight differences. For example, before the Buddha taught the Dharma in India at that time, the mantra was already a thing. In the other sects at that time, the other different beliefs, they already utilize mantras. Whereas Dharanis are exclusive to the sutras. So that's that thing. Okay, so you could say mantra was used as part of the local, to co-opt the local language. That's one way. Some people, all right, you don't have to pay attention to all this. I'm just sharing what I know. Some people say all mantras are Dharanis, but not all Dharanis are mantras. Okay, then there are also people who say all Dharanis are mantras, but not all mantras are Dharanis. Okay, unless you are writing a paper for your master's thesis or for your doctorate in Buddhist studies, we don't have to worry about all this, but just know that that's what some people say. All right. Okay, excuse me. As far as we are concerned, in terms of practice, they're all the same. All right, we don't have to go into those differences. Okay, what's a mantra? A mantra is a Sanskrit word meaning spell, charm, or magic formula, a syllable or series of syllables. What syllables are these? These are, if you have recited the Avatamsaka Sutra, and there's the Avatamsaka syllabary made up of 42 alphabets of the Sanskrit language, those syllables, all right, that may or may not have semantic meaning, most often in a form of Sanskrit, the contemplation or recitation of which is thought to be efficacious. Efficacious means you get a response. Also known as mind protector, and this is key because this is how you hold a mantra. Because a mantra serves to protect the mind from ordinary appearances. There are many famous mantras ranging in length from 1 syllable to 100 syllables or more. For example, I think one of the longest mantras is the Shurangama mantra. And for those of you who also know about Tibetan Buddhism, you might see that they have prayer wheels, where in the form of like part of a structure of a stupa or a temple, there are things that turn around, and then you see people walking and turning it around, or they hold a turning wheel in their hand and they just use their wrist to turn. That symbolizes each time you recite a mantra. So when you turn that thing in your heart and your mind, you're supposed to be turning the mantra over, reciting the mantra. So turning the wheel, the physical thing by itself doesn't do anything. Okay, you have in your mind, you have to be focused as well with the mantra. Okay, what is Dharani? So just now we read about mantra, now we're reading about Dharani. Actually, it's the same. You can combine those two and you'll be okay. So the term is derived etymologically from the Sanskrit root dhr. I don't know how to pronounce that. Okay, dhr, which means to hold or to maintain, thus suggesting something that supports, holds, or retains. They are a verbal formula of chants, incantations, or recitations, hence believed to retain or encapsulate the meaning of lengthier texts and prolix doctrines, thus functioning as a mnemonic device. Don't ask me to explain this, I just copied this from somewhere else. I'm just sharing it with you. Because in terms, as far as we are concerned, in terms of practice, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be holding in our mind until we can use it to block all, what's the word I'm looking for? All discursive thoughts away. Yeah. Okay, Parittas. Paritta is a type of Dharani text that's found within the Theravada tradition that provides a protective charm through the chanting of hymns. Theravadan lay devotees traditionally invite the monks into their homes for chanting of certain texts for protection and safety. The Pali Canon, or the suttas found in the Pali Canon, makes many references to protective incantations and magical spells. These invocations provide protection, such as from snakes and poisonous creatures, freedom from imprisonment, for safety from calamities, fires, fear, and horror, protection against evil spirits and bad omens, easy delivery for expectant mothers, etc. Now, some of you who have just read this paragraph will probably think, oh, isn't that the Great Compassion Mantra? Doesn't a Great Compassion Mantra or recitation of Guanyin name do the same thing? Yes, it does. Yeah, in fact, there are, in the Theravada canon, there's a book called a Book of Paritta Chants, which in the following weeks we might quickly explore. There are specific ones. For example, against snakes and creatures, there's a particular sutta called the Kanda Sutta. And then for, let me see, centipedes are different. You have a different charm to protect against centipedes. And then because one of the monks was explaining, snakes belong to the dragon family, but centipedes are not from the dragon family. So if you see a centipede and you chant that the one meant for snakes, it's not going to do anything for you. Yeah. And there are all different kinds of different, they call it suttas. But if it's translated into Sanskrit or left in Pali and you recite it, you won't understand the meaning as well. Yeah. Okay. All right. So now going back to Shufu's commentary on the Lotus Sutra, Shufu says Dharani is a Sanskrit word that is translated in Chinese as total retention, or more literally, encompassing and retaining. Shufu says that Dharani is also a mantra. Mantras have the purpose of bringing forth goodness and destroying evil. A Dharani is said to encompass all dharmas and retain countless meanings. It can also be said to restrain the body, mouth, and mind, ensuring the purity of physical actions, speech, and thought, and to sustain the six sense faculties, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, so that they work effortlessly and miraculously. If you look at that, the body, mouth, and mind, that's how you create karma. You can only create karma through your body, which are actions, through your mouth, which is speech, and through your mind, which is thoughts. And the six sense faculties are the body itself. So if you understand how to hold a mantra, during that time, you're also not creating unwholesome karma. Then moving on, it says, you could say that the restraining is done through the mind and the sustaining is done through the body. That is to say, by restraining the mind, one can attain the Dharma flower samadhi. Excuse me. By sustaining the body, one can attain the Dharma flower dharani, the dharani of a single revolution. How does a dharani restrain and sustain the three karmic modes of physical actions, speech and mind, ensuring their purity? It prevents the body from committing acts of killing, stealing, or sexual misconduct. All right, that's the body. It prevents the mouth from uttering any frivolous speech, false speech, harsh speech, or divisive speech. These are speech that if you become the subject or the object of, you will not like it at all. Trust me. You know, you don't want anyone saying anything about you, anything bad. So that's why we should refrain from indulging in those unwholesome acts. Then for the mind, it prevents the mind from excuse me, hold on, let me mute my mic. Okay. It prevents the mind from indulging in thoughts of greed, anger, or delusion. If you can purify your three karmic modes of physical action, speech, and mind, then your six sense faculties will also be pure. When your six sense faculties are pure, you can attain the freedom of letting the six sense faculties function interchangeably. And then Shiva says there are many ways to interpret the meanings of dharani. Only general meanings are provided here. A dharani is a mantra, and one of the functions of mantras is to grant protection. They protect you so that everything becomes auspicious and favorable. So then there are a few stories that Shufu has that Shufu attributes to the efficacy of the mantras. One thing to note about mantras, they are not translated, but there are instances where mantras are explained. And you will find, and this is where the similarities with the Paritta chants come in. Mantras are usually, for example, the Shurangama mantra, the beginning is taking refuge in the Buddha, paying homage to the Buddha, for example, the Triple Gem. And then there are also names of, depending on the mantra, there are names of various Buddhas, various Bodhisattvas, various spirits, dragon kings, the four heavenly kings, for example, from the heaven closest to us, the Tushita heaven, no, the Trimsha heaven. No. What's No, the heaven of the four kings. Sorry, so obvious, I totally forgot. From the heaven of the four kings. Because the four kings, the four generals, are in charge. One general is in charge of Kumbhandas, for example. Another general is in charge of Yakshas. So Shufu says that one of the ways mantras work is, say, if someone is causing trouble, and you know that, say, a boy is causing trouble, and you know the name of the boy, you know the family, and suddenly the boy hears you calling his father's name, and then the boy will behave, because the last thing he wants to know is his father finding out that he has been misbehaving and that he will be punished. So Shufu gave a very simple example of one way the mantra works. So when you call the name of the ghost king, then all the retinue of the ghost king will behave because you call the name of their boss. Yeah. So that's one interesting anecdote about mantras. So Shufu has this story. He says, today a laywoman told us that her son was in a car crash when she was bowing the Medicine Master repentance at home. The car was completely wrecked, but her son was unhurt. Shufu says, think about this. Cars are very sturdy, yet her son's car was destroyed. Humans are very fragile, yet he was uninjured. How do you explain this? Shufu says, this could only be attributed to the power of Dharani. Bodhisattva Medicine King made a vow that says that if you practice the Medicine Master repentance, you can avert the 9 kinds of untimely deaths, including all kinds of fatal accidents. And then Shufu gave another example. Shufu says, 3 years ago, a woman who was the mother of Miss San Francisco took a trip to the countryside. It was raining hard on the way back. A truck came up behind the woman's car and tried to make her go faster. Then the truck rear-ended her car, launching it forward 200 yards, almost as if it were flying down the highway. Although this woman was physically inside the car, at that moment, she felt herself ascending into space. From above, she looked down and saw herself in the car. How can this be, she thought. Oh, I must have died. But in the blink of an eye, she was back in the car with just a few minor injuries. It could be said that this was a response from the Dharani, because she recites the Great Compassion Mantra and has deep faith in the Buddha. All of you think about this. Were it not for the power of the Dharani, how could she have had such a response? This is an example of the workings of the auspicious, wish-fulfilling, protective power of the Dharani or mantra. Okay, now, Shufu can say things like that. Why? Because if you have read Shufu's biography, his life story, you would realize that Shufu seems to know a lot of things that normal people don't know, and a lot of experience and a lot of abilities that are beyond our, even our imagination. So when we come across certain things, say we practice certain things and some things happen, we have to be careful to draw a straight line saying that, oh, I was protected by the Buddha, or because I recite the Great Compassion Mantra or the Buddha's name, nothing happened to me, I was safe. Unless you know, okay? Unless you know for sure through your Kung Fu in your practice, don't make claims like that because you don't know, all right? You can say things like, well, maybe because I recite the Great Compassion Mantra, maybe because of that I was protected, because that's what the sutras say. All right, if you don't know. All right, so don't make claims as if we know what's going on, as if we know what's the cause and effect behind what happens to us. All right, okay. All right, coming back to the question about home. Before that, do we have any other questions about mantras? I actually have a very interesting story called the Black Hat Woman, Shufu's encounter with the demon in China, but I will keep that for next week. Anyone have any questions? No? Okay. So the question is, because I don't read Chinese, I do not know the name of this person. But the question is, today I returned to my old family home where I spent my childhood with my family, and this person discovered it has been burned down, and this person has been without a home for many years. The family hasn't lived together for a long time, and everyone has their individual new lives, and this person has been feeling nostalgic and remembering their childhood. And so they're seeing the house, the old house damaged by fire. There are mixed emotions and a deep sense of shock. So how should one define home? Okay. In the sutras, okay, I won't answer your question directly right now. I will give what the sutras examine, what the sutras say about where do you find a monastery or where do you find a temple. Okay. According to Bodhidharma, when the sutras talk about building a monastery, sometimes the sutra talks about doing great merit. What is doing great merit? If you can build a temple, if you can build a monastery. Bodhidharma says that a deeper way of understanding the monastery is not a physical structure that, that's somewhere on a piece of land, but rather your own body. Why? Because where you practice is where your body is. So if you can understand that your body is actually the monastery, Then you will guard the entrances to your body, your eyes. You know how to guard the entrances to your body, like the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, the body, and the mind, to guard against outflows, and that you will always know that you are practicing. You don't, most people, when they come into the temple, you can hear them suddenly going, shh, okay. They know that when they're outside, they are normal, but when they come to the temple, they have to be more quiet, they have to be more mindful, they can't simply joke, they can't say normal things that they want to say, they have to be more careful. All right? So they're on better behavior. And as a monk, I get to witness this a lot. Or parents tell their children, oh, you have to behave now. Or the wife will slap the husband on the shoulder to remind the husband to behave himself. Yeah, I see this all the time. So for them, you are on your best behavior in the temple, but when you leave the temple, then you are free. You can do whatever you want. There's no one, the Buddha is not looking at you. But according to Bodhidharma, no. You should regard your body as a temple, and one of the meaning is that everywhere you go, you're always practicing. Okay, having said that, what does that have to do with the question of defining home? If someone has a regular practice, you will soon discover that your practice is not really reliant on the outside. It's not your conditions, it's not where you are, but it's rather what you do with your mind. So I'm looking at this from a Buddhist perspective. So for some people, it's really when you sit down and meditate and the mind quiets down. And then they discover, oh, I'm actually really returning home, because you're discovering who you really are. Okay, so that's one way of understanding that. The other way, it's say a more worldly way, and if anyone has any suggestions or ideas, please just unmute your microphone or type into the chat box. The other way is a Chinese tradition or a Chinese custom that no matter where you are, if your parents, it depends on whether your parents or your grandparents, your ancestors are around or not. For those who parents have or grandparents have moved on, I'm not sure about modern families, but more when we were growing up, or more traditional Chinese families, you would always have an ancestral altar at your home, which is a very good practice. And you would have tablets or plaques with the names of your parents or the names of your grandparents or your clan written on it. And it will be a place where you can remind yourself of the kindness that your parents have shown to you. Why is this important? Well, most people are on good behavior when they are reminded of their parents. They don't want to let their parents down because the parents have done a lot for them. And in Buddhism, this is very important because one of the ways that we can become a Buddha is, number one, to repay the gratitude of our parents. So if that is something that can work for a person, then no matter where you go, your roots are always with you. You're always reminded of your roots. So you, by constantly reminding yourself of the kindness that you have been shown, and of the need to repay the kindness. To repay kindness is a never-ending task. The Buddha, there's maybe at least 2 sutras that I can recall from memory, that the Buddha said, for example, there's a sutra called Sutra on Repaying the Kindness of Parents. And the Buddha said, even if you were to carry your parents on both your shoulders, and you carry them until your skin wears down to your bones, and you keep on carrying your parents on your shoulders, you will never be able to repay the kindness of your parents. That's what the Buddha said. So that's why the vow to repay first of all recognize the kindness of your parents, and the vow to repay the kindness of your parents is a prerequisite for someone who wants to become a Buddha. It's called generating the Bodhi resolve. There's an essay called How to Generate the Bodhi Resolve. The first is, it may not be the first, but I'm quite sure it's the first. It's an exhortation to repay the kindness of parents. So this ancient Chinese tradition, where the memory of your parents or your grandparents actually has a physical space in your home, is very useful. It reminds you of your roots. It reminds you of your obligation to be a better version of yourself. And it also forms as, if you have children, it also forms as a way to ground them, to share stories, wholesome stories of where you came from, of where they came from, and that can help them in growing up. For example, I remember stories of my grandparents that my mother has told me, and which has had a positive impact of me even up to today, even up to now. Yeah. So for now, when it comes to how one should define home, I'm sure there are other ways. There might be ways of decorating, or maybe bringing back certain traditions, or a lot of very good ideas. But I think for me, in this case, it would be going back to your roots and honoring the roots. Yeah. If that doesn't work, then just pick up the phone, call your relatives, say hello, maybe visit. No matter what the relationship may be like, taking the first step to, I won't say mend, because to mend means it has been broken, but taking the first step to bring the relationship closer will only work if it happens, if you try it out. Yeah. Does anyone have any ideas or suggestions for this question? Would the person like to respond? You can respond in Chinese. We have a few people here who can understand and can interpret, translate into English. No? No response? Okay, Yalin. I'm not sure if I answered your question, Yalin. You want to ask further? You can ask in Chinese. It's okay. 可以，我可以听一点点。Okay, no? All right. Anyone want to contribute to Yalin's question? No, it's a very good question. Okay, the best thing is to do good deeds in the memory of your family. Whether they are around or not around, it doesn't matter. Whether they are alive or not alive. One way to honor your good memories is to do good deeds on their behalf and transfer the merit to them. And for Mahayana, if you're Mahayana Buddhist, and then you also, not just yourself, but for everyone who feels like that, or people who have never experienced a home or never experienced a family, then you can make a vow like the Buddhas make. For example, that in the future, when you become a Buddha or when you become a Bodhisattva, anyone who is lonely, people won't have to suffer by themselves. Yeah, you can turn it into a Mahayana vow. All right? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Let me end this slideshow and get our transference. Okay. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands excuse me, I'm going to start again. How hands and hearts can find in giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, I'm going to do 3 bows to the Buddha. Okay, all right. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Rebel Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay, Amitabha everyone. I'm so happy that you all came back after such a long break. And we'll see you next week as we explore more about mantras.
Thank you.